We are live. It is 2:04 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8:04 p.m. BST in the UK. This is the Nomad Tech Project with Sam and Joe, the best podcast no one has ever heard of. We are live early an hour, so sorry if you were thinking it was 3/9. So it's Mother's Day in the United States. It's not in the UK. I thought it was. When I sent a message to Joe earlier, I said, "Hey, happy Mother's Day." He's like, "Not Mother's Day in the UK. What is it in the UK, by the way?"
Sunday. Sorry, mate.
Okay, well, that's great.
That's
okay, well, you know what? Google it, folks. You know, just, hey, Google, what's Mother's Day in the UK? And they'll tell you. I don't really want to do the research for you at this point. It's easy. So, and we are live with a guest known in parts on our circles as Andrew, but more probably well known as FatProduce. Andrew, how are you, sir? Welcome to the show. First time. Long-time listener, first-time caller, right? So welcome to the show.
Oh yeah. You know, thank you guys for having me on. Yeah, this is just great. It's been a while since I've been on a podcast, and it's great because I feel like there's about a year worth of tech we got to catch up on.
Yeah, and I remember your old show with was it Demir?
Yeah.
Have you talked to him? How is Demir, Frank? How is he doing?
He's pretty good. I've been so busy this past year that I haven't been able to talk to him as much as I would like to. But I remember he was getting back into biking again, which was really good because he had just had a bad accident, and I could being someone who's had a reconstruction surgery, I can definitely sympathize with him on that. So,
oh yeah, like I said, I used to love Demir. Had his videos were really good, especially about the camera on the phones he was trying out. Also was kind of nice because he approached it from phones that maybe Americans didn't always have. So like the Huawei's which is kind of funny because back then it was kind of like it wasn't such a push to have those kind of like Chinese branded phones, and then because he was in Germany, he was able to access a lot of the phones that, and he did the regular. I just liked his content. I liked his accent. I thought it was pretty good. So I'm glad he's doing pretty well. I kind of missed hearing from him. So
yeah, he's really nice with his content and how he reviews, because he has that gruff quality, which is refreshing. Because there's something to be said about, you don't have to be diplomatic about a product all the time. And he's very, very honest about it, which I found, which is really a lot of fun. So it was great. Or if we disagreed, then it was really fun because you don't have to we never tiptoed around it, which was fun, more entertaining. So
yeah, and then Aditya's in the chat. So we got Barry Johnson, we got Dan. Aditya, he missed the Bro Sus podcast. I do too. That's why I mentioned that. I really kind of I know the frequency kind of got kind of extreme, kind of extended.
Yeah, and life happened, and it kind of just had one of those things where it just kind of, we had to take a break, and I'd like to try and get it back going again, but I need to kind of figure out exactly what time's going to work.
Yeah, exactly. Well, especially
I'm getting back into the flow again.
Finally. And that's the problem that me and Joe have is, it's the time change, right? So he's 6 hours ahead. So it's trying to coordinate those times. It's different. Like me and Andrew kind of both live in Missouri. So if people don't know, we both live in the same actual state. You live in Columbia still, right?
No, I actually live down by Springfield now.
Okay, so okay.
Yeah, so it's not the edge of the earth, but you can see it from there.
Right. It's about so Springfield from St. Louis would be right about 4 hours if you drove.
It's around 3 to 4-ish hours.
If you pushed it, you could probably get there in 3.
Depending on how unsafe I feel like driving.
Right. So it's not too far away, but like I said, for Joe, realize that he lives in a country that I think from not necessarily north to south, clearly obviously from Northern Ireland to like the cliffs of Dover, it's probably about 8 or 9 hours, but side to side, it's probably about 2.5, 3 hours. So the people in the UK don't understand. It's like, yeah, Andrew lives about 4 hours away. He's like, holy shit. Like you had to fly, you got to like get a plane, right? To go see him. Like, no, I just get in a car. And
literally cross country.
Right. Exactly. So in the UK, they don't really, it's a smaller country than the United States. Actually, I think the UK is about the size of Virginia.
It's a different mindset. Like I said to Sam, you'd have to get a hotel and stay over, wouldn't you? No, it's only a 3-hour drive.
No, I would get up. I'd probably leave about 5:30.
I think, 3 hours. Bloody, I'll have to stay the night.
So probably if I was going to go drive to Andrew's house, I'd probably leave like 5:36 a.m. Get there about 10. We go out and get breakfast and then hang out. And then I would just, if I'd stayed over, cool. If not, I just get back and drive back to St. Louis and get home about 3.5 hours later. So
well, and I went on a trip I went on a trip to meet up with some friends in Philly, and there were people there. Like there was a couple of friends who drove like 10 hours, and it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you get your chill time basically, and you can kind of listen to whatever you want, and you kind of make part of it also is like the long drive is part of the experience too. Sometimes.
Oh yeah,
especially if you're driving. If you're riding in the car, then but if you're driving,
that's what you have a Switch for, or you have an audiobook or something like that.
Right, exactly. So,
Nomad Tech Project podcast.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Or you can listen to your back catalog of podcasts from the Nomad Tech Project. You could do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying you have to.
By the way, everyone here should.
But you should. You should put it right in your ears. So, and then we also want to mention that we have a sponsor. Joe, who is our sponsor for the show? I don't know.
Extreme Skins.
www.extremeskins.co.uk. Cool. What do they do there at Extreme Skins? I forgot. I think they
put beautiful skins on your tech. They protect your tech in style.
There you go. And they're a lot more affordable. They deliver worldwide. So if we're not going to mention the other company that does skins.
They don't pretend they're robots.
No, they don't. No.
Oh, okay.
As a matter of fact, and if you take their skins and you apply them incorrectly, possibly, they will actually burn you on social media. They will actually get on Twitter and make fun of you. Legitimately, like they will burn you. It's pretty good. There are a lot of good folks over there. So extremeskins.co.uk. Go check them out. Get some skins for your phones. Make them look nice and that kind of thing. And then also, as you know, we're part of the Purposely Pixel team over on the YouTube channel. So go check that out. Even if you're not a Pixel fan, if you have a Pixel, you probably already follow them. If you don't have a Pixel, you should follow them anyway. They're good people. We got Lenny and all them over there. They got a good group. Neil, check them out. Purposely Pixel YouTube channel, and we appreciate their support and their energy and everything else. They've really done good for, and that's where it's currently streaming right now. So we have our Twitch channel, Nomad Tech Project. Go look for it. Nobody goes to it. You should subscribe to it. You don't have to pay for it. Please don't send us money because we don't give a shit about that. But at least try to go throw a sub, maybe, or not. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It's just like you listen to it later on. It's fine. So now that we've got our plugs out of the way, I guess Joe, you had a question about Andrew's username. What is?
I've always wondered why FatProduce.
So that's actually an interesting question. So I have a brother and two cousins with Fragile X syndrome. So they're special needs, and they're very social people. And so it's one of those things where they have some wonderful sayings, and it's fun how they come up with some of the sayings that they have. And so we went to a grocery store and came across some particularly large cantaloupe, and one of my cousins just looked at it and said, "Wow, that's some FatProduce." And that's how it stuck. Right, and it's really good. I've never had any sort of thing where I have to go FatProduce 156 or anything like that.
Right,
which I've been thankful for. But they've also come up with some other wonderful terms, and it's wonderful, the thought process too, because it's clever. So one time I was driving them back. I was riding in a vehicle and we were going back like to drop them off at work or something. And we were in a traffic jam in Kansas City, and it's one of those things where they understood, like my cousin understood, that the anatomical reference plus the situation equals the curse. And so we're sitting there and at a dead stop, and he's shaking his head and he goes, "Man, this is a bunch of penis traffic." I was like, okay, that's really clever.
It's a pretty interesting way to look at it. I would have,
right?
Yeah, exactly. It was funny how they can conceptualize and perceive the world. So their commentary of said world comes from a different angle, but it's appropriate, right? It's just a different way of looking at it.
Instead of going all this bunch of effing traffic or something, they chose the clever route and like went within the rules, perceived the rules. So
that sounds good.
But that's kind of the origin of my screen name.
That's cool.
It's
not what I expected at all.
Yeah, no one ever really it's a very specific story background for it.
Well, and I like that because then it makes it specifically unique to you, and it's not hacky or weird or like maybe sponged off of somebody else. I mean, it's very very kind of iconic, and also specifically is is tied directly to you. So that's I had kind of hard parts of that story. I thought I'm vaguely familiar with it, but I'm glad we actually had to hear the details of that story.
Get the myth.
Yeah, I've always wondered.
We had to get the mythology set right,
Right, you gotta set it up good. So we appreciate that. So then we also want to get into. I think the last time I spoke to you, I think you still had the OnePlus 7 Pro. And I know you got rid of it. I'm pretty sure you had the Note 20, but I couldn't swear to it. So I'm curious where we are right now as far as your current. Okay, cool. We're still rocking it with the UAG case, of course.
Yeah. Well, and with a skin like under it, because I like the UAG cases because they can actually the plasma ones because you can actually see the back, and it kind of looks like one of those old Game Boys.
Yeah,
I won't say the brand, but
right, exactly.
but yeah, it's been good. I've really enjoyed it. This is the first Samsung phone I've avoided using Samsung for 10 years basically, because I'm a contrarian. It's actually kind of funny. So I've basically inherited, and I need to sell it, but I have my mother's old iPhone, and so it's been a weird look where I signed into my accounts on there, and it's like, oh, I wonder what alternate reality Andrew, who went full on an iOS, what he would have done with this. And I'm like, man, he was boring,
right?
But it's been interesting. There's, I picked the Note 20 Ultra because it was the last flagship Samsung phone, or one of the last flagships to have an SD card slot, and I didn't have the budget for a Sony phone, so. It's one of those things where it's been nice, and there are a lot of little things that add up that I enjoy about the One UI experience. There are other aspects I don't really like, but it's overall it's been a really good experience. And so I think after this, assuming that they make certain changes in foldable design, hinge design, I think I'll go with a foldable after this in the next year or two.
Yeah, and I did. Yeah, I did, and
right?
I did try. I had a Fold 3. I didn't like it as much. I don't know why. I think it's because it was the outside screen was not usable. I didn't think it was okay. Too bulky, and then also I thought about it and I worried about it, and I still do, the long-term durability of a foldable screen, right? At least from Samsung and that iteration. Maybe the Apple Find N's fine, and the new Huawei stuff's good, and that kind of thing. So
yeah, it's one of those things. It's one of those things where they if material science if they aren't going to change the material for the display, then Samsung needs to change the design of the hinge to incorporate the teardrop once it's closed, because I think that's the problem with all the spontaneous cracking and screen destruction that's been happening on their foldables, is just the hinge needs to be redesigned.
Right.
And if they don't do that with the Fold 4, then I'm staying away.
And Aditya is giving you something. He looks you again, like I said in the show, you're like a really more professional the show really deserves. So we really appreciate the nice T-shirt and the sport coat. That was very nice.
Oh, well, thank you. I might as well. And I figured I'd go a little retro too with my actual Sony Walkman headphones.
Right. And I because you had mentioned those before the show, and I was like, no, if you need to totally rock. If those things work, you need to totally use
They actually sound really good. They've never stopped sounding good.
Yeah.
Since then. So it's kind of funny. And it even has the knot that my parents ended up putting in back in the 80s, to keep, it's one of those things where they've repaired them several times. And
I'm just impressed that the foam around the ear cups hasn't degraded like it wears. And
the reason why it hasn't is because about 2 years ago, I discovered it behind the audio setup, the head unit in the back. So it's been back there in a time capsule for the past 15, 20 years.
Saved. Yeah, it's a good deal. So I knew, I said, I remember you really liking the OnePlus 7 Pro. And I think really
it was good.
And of course, everybody, the powers that be and the OnePlus Intelligentsia, right? They claim that's the last great OnePlus device, right? The OnePlus 7 Pro.
Yeah, they claim it. It was really good. I still think OnePlus makes great devices now. My wife is actually using the OnePlus 8T, and she really likes it. It's got better battery life. The one thing I will say that annoyed me about this whole process was, So we both had OnePlus 7 Pros. She had a T-Mobile on that she had unlocked, and I had a factory unlocked one. Well, with hers, she ended up. So we are on Cricket Wireless, which if you don't have any phones that are on their whitelist that support VoLTE, then they just cut off your service with it. And so I had already sold my OnePlus 7 Pro. My unlocked one, and then it turns out she was gonna have to switch out because it was the one model number that wouldn't work. And I was like, damn it, I should have just like swapped it and then sold hers. But
right,
first world problems. But the AT has been really good. It's lasted really well. And yeah, I don't really get the OnePlus hate that's happened since the Oppo kind of merger as much, because I mean, I don't know. I still think they make quality devices.
I think it comes down to the fact that, remember the genesis of the OnePlus brand, right? It was the CyanogenMod, the $300 invite-only, disruptive, cheap, kick-ass phone, right? And I think a lot of OnePlus fans really gravitated to that at first, and I think they feel that they've sold out. And I guess the question would be well, what do you expect the company to really do? I mean, did you really think they were going to stay in that disruptive CyanogenMod lineage, AOSP, making crap phones that are really cheap that you have to get an invite system? Or are they going to try to, homogenize and try to get more mainstream, right? Because that's what you want to do. You want to grow the brand. The whole point is to grow the brand. And in the United States, that growth equals carrier availability. It just does. And so they're kind of one of those things where they're kind of between the rock and the hard place, right? They don't want to do that because that's antithetical to their brand as it started. But in order to get penetration into a US market, you're going to have to kind of play that game. And so they did, there were carrier options for OnePlus, but now the problem is I could get a OnePlus 10 Pro. The problem is because of because of AT&T's whitelisting, it's not listed on there. So I don't have the choice now. So I have to kind of I have to make a choice of living in that AT&T carrier system, or I have to, step out of it and maybe get a OnePlus 10 Pro, but then maybe it's switch to T-Mobile and something I just don't really want to do.
Well, I think that those devices will still work, like the newer ones, as long as it has VoLTE, it should still work. The big thing is legacy devices that were on the whitelist. And it is a little bit more, especially with 5G, it's a little bit more complicated now getting an unlocked device. Because I always try to go within a factory unlocked device because I want to get my updates directly from the manufacturer. That was the one thing I had the LG V60. It was an AT&T variant, and I loved that phone, except for the fact, exactly, Aditya. The only thing that really was terrible about it was they never made an unlocked variant. I could not get it unlocked, even though it was paid off. It was always through some hell between LG and AT&T, passing the buck between them. And then I could not, being on Cricket Wireless. Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. And then also since I was on Cricket Wireless and it was an AT&T branded LG V60, I could only update the phone or the dual screen case if I had an active AT&T SIM card in it. Right. So I would have to go to the AT&T store and be like, hey, could you guys stick one of your demo SIMs in mine to update it? And they're like, well, no. Half the time they're like, what? No, are you gonna buy something from us? No, get out. So yeah, I ended up switching that sucker up, but it was good. Like I really enjoyed that phone a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of one of those things that you really can't. There's been a lot of transition this past 24 to 48 months.
Yeah, exactly. So Joe, I saw that you took a picture with that Pixel 6. Was it a snail? Is that the picture?
Yeah, that was on the telephoto.
Man,
the telephoto is awesome in good light.
I tell you what, that kind of makes me wish I would have got the 6 Pro, because wow.
Funny you say it, Deitcher said the same.
It was like, wow. I saw that photo. I was like, holy shit, that's a really good shot. I mean,
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go on. It was just a really good photo. Like I said, and unfortunately with the regular 6, I don't have a telephoto, so that would have been a challenging shot. It would have probably
Yeah, the telephoto has been a huge thing that that's one of the reasons why I went with Note 20 Pro. Also, I'd never actually owned a Note. But just that periscoping telephoto zoom lens is actually really nice. I didn't think that I would use it as much as I do. And it's also
the ultra wide's pretty nice on that as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah. The telephoto in this one is really, really quite good. It'll go 10 times before it starts digitally cropping, I think.
Yeah.
And it works really well. I've used it for some utilitarian purposes, as to just zoom it back, and it actually works. I've been very, very happy with it. As weird as a niche reason to get a Samsung phone as it was, one thing that really drew me also to trying out Samsung was there's an app on the Galaxy Store specifically, and this is something that should be just across every Android device. But what it does is it's called Sound Assistant, and it gives you significantly more volume control options. Like you can control volume on an individual app basis, and you can play audio from multiple apps at once simultaneously. So if I'm driving and I'm listening to an audiobook or podcast, I can have some music on in the background, which I feel like you should be able to do this period on any smartphone.
Definitely, yeah, that's fantastic app.
Right, it's great, but it's Samsung exclusive.
Right, because it's part of the good lock feature.
Right. Also, Joe, I just want to say, spectacular uniform.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, move like show.
Want to see my chest?
So is that the one? Yeah. Is it? Okay, I don't know the color, so because I'm not a Star Trek. Well, I like the show. I don't know shit about it. So is it that's the guy that gets killed every time, or is that the red shirt dude?
Well, no. It's gold is command in TOS in the 23rd century, but then in the 24th century they switch. It's gold is the one who dies or gets
right. I just remember the red shirt guy gets goes on the wave mission and gets. It's like he's dead.
So I have to admit, I'm more next generation, more of a next generation fan. Just where I was born.
Well, and the funny thing is, and hot take, I loved Deep Space Nine. That was my favorite. I know that's apparently it's sacrilege. Apparently, I found out in the Star Trek universe that nobody liked it. I love Deep Space Nine. I love that show.
Deep Space Nine was more appreciated after the fact.
Right. I love that setup between Cisco and all that, and Dr. Bashir. That, to me, I wanted to see a space station as opposed to, because it was always a ship, right? The Voyager. Mm-hmm. It was always a ship. That was the only one. It was like a station that had ships interact with it, right? I was a huge fan of Deep Space Nine. I still am. I like it the most.
It's good. Then I think you would like Babylon 5 as well if you can get past the cheap sets and the even cheaper CGI effects. But it's really well written, and also purposely gaming. Yes,
that's Matt. Matt's in the chat.
Oh,
love Matt.
Matt. Yes. By the way, yes, Picard. So I will quote Red Letter Media on Picard, and it's apt. I feel like trying to critique Star Trek Picard is like me being an art critic trying to critique a 6-year-old's finger paintings that's stuck on the front of a refrigerator.
Oh, really? Is that bad?
I've
not checked it out yet.
I watched.
It is hot garbage.
I think I watched the first 3 or 4 episodes of the first season. I'm like, I can't. I don't care about this show. Like, I don't care about this show. Now, granted, I'm not exactly a Trekkie or I'm not a Star Wars. Like, I mean, I'm not really into the universes and stuff. I like watching them from the periphery. But yeah, I couldn't get through it. I'm like, I really don't care about this show at all. I just don't care.
It's so bad. But I will say the first episode of Strange New Worlds was okay, but so was the first episode of season 2 of Picard, and I got burned, and I still watched it because I have Stockholm syndrome. Star Trek, so.
I'm gonna watch it still, even though you said that. I'm still gonna watch it.
So I know what to complain about.
Right.
Apparently.
Yeah. So what happened was, so back real quick, back into the phone. So I had to do a thing. So my daughter had a Note, my old Note 10. I don't know if anybody remember. I bought a Note 10, and then I had it for like 2 months. And my daughter was like, she had an iPhone 6S Plus and wanted to get rid of it. So I was like, well, shit, the only phone I have is this one. So here you go. So I gave her the Note 10. She used it for 2 years, and finally she's done with it. And she's like, hey, Dad, the battery's kind of trash, and I want to try something new. I said, well, the only 2 devices I have currently is the Pixel 6, which I don't want to give up, and the P30, which I don't really want to give you. So I told her, I said, okay, well, that's a personal thing. And first of all, it's a Huawei phone, and it's a Color OS Huawei version. So there's a lot of Chinese, and she'd be like, because she likes to do a lot of the talking, and it's Celia, right? There's no, I'm like, yeah, it's not. So I said, okay, well, I'll give her the OnePlus 6. So I got the Note 10 back, and I used it for a couple of days. I go, you know what? Screw this. I'm done with it. So I went out and.
Oh, nice.
I will tell you, I've had it since like Thursday. I don't want to like this phone because that means that every moment I have a SIM in this, that means I'm not using my Duo 2. But it's it's such a good phone. It's stupid.
I know.
I hate to say it.
Aren't watching.
Oh,
Sam's holding an
I still have a
S22
Pixel,
Ultra.
so don't. And I love the Pixel. I miss the features. I miss all that stuff. I miss the live transcribe. I miss all that stuff, right? But my daughter's got it, so at least it's still in the house. So I know her. In a year and a half from now, that phone's coming back to me. So I know it's coming back to me, right?
To be fair, Sam, 2 of the guys in the Purposely Pixel team have a Pixel 6 Pro and an S22 Ultra, and there's a lot they like about the S22 Ultra, to be fair.
First of all, the funny thing is, and I try to tell people, is this isn't my first Note, essentially. I've had the Note 4, the Note 5. I didn't get a 7 because by the time I was ready to get the 7, it decided to go nuclear and like burn up and like light on fire. But I had an 8, a 9, I had a 10, I lost. And then I didn't get a 20, so the one that Andrew's got. I skipped it. And I'm telling you right now, I've used it for like, when I first turn on, I look at the screen, I'm like, oh. You know, I love my Duo. I love my Duo 2, but man, when you start using the pen and you get back to the old school, I'm not even gonna lie, man. I'm not even gonna cap. It's a fantastic device, and I've got the whole battery's not great, but I know it takes a while to kind of get used to you. But I took some pictures the other day, kind of around the neighborhood. I took some pictures of our lake and stuff with the 10x zoom, and I was like, wow, I can't get these shots on a Duo. And I realize it's 2 different kind of devices, right? So I'm not an idiot. I realize that, but it's man, the three like 72 hours in, yeah, okay. I can rock the Duo and I can rock this S22 Ultra. It's fantastic. I really like it.
How would you say your experience between the soft One UI on that and your software experience on the Duo 2 has been? This early on, kind of comparison between.
I like One UI. I think this version of the Android 12, so I guess it's 4.1, is really, really good. It's integrated well to the phone. I still like the way that the software works on the Duo, only because the problem I don't like with the Duo is, remember, Microsoft Launcher isn't integrated into the OS. It's on top of it as a regular. Right. So you still get some jank and that kind of thing, but I will tell you that I will say that, you know, obviously this version of One UI is pretty good. Like, I don't really want to. Normally, it was when I had the older Samsungs and obviously TouchWiz and all those. That was coming off, right? It was Nova Launcher, it was Launcher, it was, you know, Microsoft Launcher, it was something else. I really don't feel like I have to do that, especially with GoodLock, right? So I can throw some icon packs on there. I think, honestly, I know maybe this is another thing that, you know, people will kind of get, you know, crabby about, because nobody wants to root for the Yankees, right? Even Yankees fans kind of feel like, yeah, I mean, you know, so I get it. But I'm telling you right now, in the game right now, for the price, Samsung with this phone really delivers. I mean, honestly, the software, the capability, the pen, I got a good deal on it. So I know I want to kind of hate on, because it's kind of like you're just one of those Samsung guys now. Like, well, I have been. I've had Notes. Actually, the matter of fact is, I've never owned an S series device. The entire time, it's always been Notes. And
Sam, going on from Andrew's question, how about multitasking? How does that compare?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. And I don't give a shit what anybody says. And the reason why, and here's the reason why, is because a lot of people have used an S22, right, or S21 or S20 or whatever, right? I get it. If you're using a Duo, you cannot replicate what the Duo can do multitasking on any other device, even an Oppo Find N, a Z Fold 3 or whatever. It's not the same. 2 independent screens. Again, I'm in a unique position where I've used a dual screen device, a Duo. Multitasking, no. The Duo 2 still is superior. I don't give it. And if anybody says that, it's not either one, they've never used a Duo or Duo 2, and 2, they're being objectively dishonest about it. Because multitasking on a foldable or a dual screen device is far superior than any slab phone, even an S22 Ultra, which really is designed to be a productivity device, right? Because you got
definitely.
Although here's the thing, this sucks. And Samsung really, they made the pen black. They made the top magenta, like the plunger thingy. The whole pen, like on my I think it was my Note 9, it was the blue one. The pen was right.
Little things like that,
really?
Though. It goes a long way, doesn't it?
Fucking magenta. Really, dude?
So,
come on, seriously. Get the fuck out.
So I was the guy who was like, you know what? I'm going to waste money. And I just went and ordered a green one for my black.
Shit, why not? It's black. It goes with everything, right?
Right. And I was like, oh, we'll get green. And so, yeah. So I've got an extra S Pen for whenever I do decide to sell this on Swappa. That will get me maybe $10 more on my price.
Also, if you're a right-handed person, you're usually holding the device in your left hand, right? And I hate the pen silo here. I wish it was here. They should go back to the silo on the right side.
Do you use the pen much then, Sam?
Oh, all the time.
Oh,
yeah,
I mean,
remote shutter.
To me.
The shutter, I use it to select, like, copy stuff, circle stuff on screenshots. Yeah. I use the pen all the time. And that was the thing too, is I kind of wish I know it's hard to do on the Duo, obviously. I wish they would make a slim pen. I don't know if you can make a slim, ultra slim pen for the Duo and actually put it in. There's something about a silo that is just great because, like I said, with having a slim pen attached to the phone, I know that Microsoft's done a good job with the slim pen too and magnets and stuff, but nothing beats the silo. But I use my pen all the time, and so that's why I'm a Note fan. That's why I kind of went with this. So far after about 72 hours, I'll tell you this much: my Duo has been sitting in the drawer for 3 days, and it might sit there for a little bit while longer until I can really. Yeah, I mean,
is that hell freezing over? I see outside,
right? Especially with me being the unapologetic homer for the Duo that I am. Multitasking still, the Duo crushes any phone out there. But man, that's the only thing it crushes right now: the software experience, the pen, the cameras.
There's room for them both in your life, Sam. It's good. There's room for them both in your life.
Well, and that's what
like women. You can't have 2 phones. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't want to have 2 women. That's a challenge.
One's enough.
He said it, folks. So that way we're clear. That's Joe.
By the way, so Joe, what is your daily driver right now that you're rocking?
Oh, Pixel 6 Pro. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and how is it? How's the experience been with that over time for you, with updates and everything?
It's only got better, really, but I never had many issues like some people had. Battery life. The only thing I found is there's one game I've got recently, and it's a basic game, but it's in beta, and it kills the battery. It's just this one game. It's weird.
Oh. What kind of game is it? Is it just like a click game? Is it like what game is it?
Well, it's like a block game. You know when you shoot the balls and it the blocks have numbers.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Wow, that should be a straightforward game. There must be some sort of optimization that's lacking.
Yeah, it's got. Well, it is in beta, like I said. So it's like I think there's something wrong with it. But I'm playing it because I need tokens for a different game.
You're playing into their business model.
I know. I'm a sucker.
Well, it's actually funny. Speaking of like battery drain, so I have a Galaxy Tab S6 that I use with the keyboard bit on there, and I actually got a USB-C hub and actually plugged in my so I have a Model M like keyboard.
Oh, old school goodness.
Oh, boy. Old school, like you can beat someone to death with this thing.
Right.
And I have to use active noise cancellation to keep people from hearing it when I type on it. Well, I plugged it into my Tab S6 to use with Dex, and it worked really, really great. Except for the fact that this keyboard takes a lot of power, and I could just see my battery going down on my Tab S6. I mean, it was wild, but I mean, it's a 30-year-old. Well, technically, this one is newer than that because it's made by Unicomp, but 30-year-old designs basically.
Right.
I mean, it was just crazy. But yeah, Barry Johnson, IBM Model M keyboard, the best. It's the best.
Well,
it's the best like work keyboard ever.
I want to talk more about like you. So we were talking before the show about you taking like older hardware and keyboards, and so like tell me more about what that's about, like where that's at, like what started. I'm curious about that because to be honest with you, I mean I've got a really awesome keyboard, but I wouldn't mind rocking an old mainframe IBM keyboard.
Oh yeah, sure. They're great. So this happened around the time of the pandemic where I switched. So ironically enough, so I had a Microsoft ergonomic keyboard and I got a new one, the redesigned one, and ironically enough, it hurt my wrist. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll get a mechanical keyboard, and then I got a Cherry MX board, the one that's the type of switches that are like the most common that you see these days, and it was okay. But I have there's a YouTube channel called LGR, Lazy Game Reviews, but it's mainly like retro computer tech, and so I really enjoy that. And so I got into Model M keyboards because those are like my favorite keyboards growing up, and the ones I learned to type on growing up. And so there's a whole hobbyist community behind it that thrives, and so it's actually interesting. So I ended up going and it's pretty straightforward for restoring some of these, at least depending, unless there's specific issues. So I ended up getting off of eBay a couple of terminals. So it's a different layout, but so instead of having 12 function keys, there's 24.
Whoa!
And there's like a cross nav and
I was gonna say, do you have there's like a button that triggers the 13 through 24?
So those have individual scan codes on the original IBM ones, but the ones that were made later by Unicomp, so long story short, IBM then they sold their stuff to Lexmark, and then Lexmark stopped making them, and then Unicomp started making them, and there are different things like the older ones. All have their own individual scan codes, while the newer ones basically act as Shift F1 through Shift F12 instead of their own buttons.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's like that's why I've been going through and like trying to repair the old stuff because it doesn't quite fit the new stuff, and and so
this is not good for podcasting, but I want to hear you typing on that.
Oh man, hold on.
Just got to hear it.
Hold on. Let me switch my audio because right now I actually have the noise cancellation on, so no one can hear it.
Yeah. Right. We want to hear all the clicky goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. All
right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Stand by. Let me get type someplace that's not gonna cause issues.
Oh yeah. So good.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So. Yeah. It's good though. Apparently, like Model Fs are really good too, but they don't have modern layouts. So what I ended up getting, hold on, let me switch my audio back to. There we go. So essentially, I picked up a couple of terminal keyboards which were used for like terminal computers, so they don't have lock lights or anything. And they were filthy. Like it's fascinating going in and looking at this because disassembling it, I could tell that it was used like in a banking or financial industry because the most filthy part was the numpad under the keys. And also like you can go through and like they use plastic rivets to hold them together and they get brittle over time, so you can do what's called bolt modding them, and it worked really well. And they're actually membranes under there, as far as detecting what button is pressed. And so I've had to go through getting like a pin with conductive ink and fixing the electrical continuity. And it's been fascinating, and so yeah, but it's been fun. I like going and restoring those old keyboards and not only just restoring them, but one of them I'm actually going to convert to USB. But I like the idea of having these old boards that can be repurposed for modern uses.
Yeah,
so it's one of those they don't.
That's
make
a video I'd watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah,
I would too. And then, so looks like Matt's got a question. It's like, I don't know, YouTube video. Would you use a basic cheapest on Amazon setup for a week? I don't really know.
Like for a keyboard?
I would have guessed, yeah.
I mean, I would probably, my fingers would probably hate me for it.
Right.
I'm also like, okay, so if I was on a laptop and I'm on a video call, you could see the laptop shaking from me just pounding my fingers on the keyboard, and that's why like these old IBM boards are so satisfying because I can just freaking do that, you know.
Got some weight to them.
Yeah, well, and it takes more force because they're buckling springs, so the spring that's inside literally buckles, and so it does take more actuation force to actually actuate it.
Right, key travel, so or that distance between keys. So I guess my question is that distance between keys, or is that depth of key push?
So it's the amount of force that's required to depress the key.
Right, so that's key travel.
Right, and then there's actuation point, which is where and where the key is down, it actually actuates.
Right,
and it's about like I'd say halfway down. I had another keyboard, the vintage one, that I actually took plate springs out of and made it into a linear switch, which is like good for gaming where you don't have much resistance. But the actuation point was so high up that I would rest my fingers on the keys because
it would actuate,
and it would actuate from me just like resting my fingers on it.
Right.
And so I ended up selling that, and I cleaned the whole board up. I was like, yeah, it's going to be great for like a cheap gaming, you know, thing. And I included all the plate springs if they want to put them back. And then the guy reached back out to me and said, thanks, this is great. I ripped out all the switches and used them in my own keyboard. And I'm like,
so here's an interesting, this is really for both of you guys, but have you ever used a Dvorak keyboard layout?
Dvorak. I gotta look this up here.
So I have a buddy who uses a Dvorak. He got turned on to it in college. So it's an alternate chord. It's not QWERTY, right? So they put the keys. He's used a Dvorak keyboard for years, and he swears by it.
That is a weird layout.
Yeah, he swears by it. Now, if you're a hunt and peck typer like me, no. he got turned on to this in college. He has actually a Dvorak layout keyboard. And I swear, he absolutely swears by it. He thinks it's superior to a QWERTY setup.
That is I can't.
And that's the problem. I think so many people the world, like 99.9% of the world. The funny thing is, you're a keyboard guy and you never even heard of it.
Right. Well, okay. There are people who are way more in the knowledge than me. I will say, like I am, like there are
hardware keyboard, but this is more layouts, right? Exactly.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because what was it? I'm actually converting the terminal keyboards to a more modern layout, but this is even more alien.
Right. He got it. Somebody in college was using it. He noticed it because this guy was using a Dvorak key set. And you can actually set Windows to do this. It will actually input a Dvorak keyboard. So if you take a USB Dvorak keyboard and put it on there, you will literally be able to set your Windows to actually acknowledge it. It's in there.
That's crazy.
And he swears by it. And I watched him type. He crushed it. Like, he can't use a QWERTY keyboard anymore. He can't. It's been like 15 years of using this. And
I think
and Barry's right. There wasn't a lot of high quality ones. There are ones. There is one on Amazon. It's a USB one, because what they do is they don't have actual QWERTY Dvorak keyboards. They actually have ones that map the keys with stickers. It's kind of a janky situation, but they actually have Dvorak keyboards, and you can check them out. And he at first couldn't do it. He said it took him like about a good month to really start to really do it. And then now that he's done it for like 20 years, dude, he crushes typing. It's crazy. That's
interesting. Well, and more power to you if it works for you. I guess it's kind of like people who, so like for non-work things, or if I don't need to be in a hurry while I'm doing on my computer, like I like to use a trackball. And so it's one of those things where it's kind of similar with like somebody who's used a trackball for 30 years is absolutely going to be better at it than on a mouse. There's more power to you. It's crazy though. Like there are people who use these hyper minimalist keyboards where like I just can't even like wrap my head around it. I'm still the guy who needs to have a numpad because with my job,
I like a numpad,
right, and I love the numpad. But it's fascinating seeing the people who use those hyper minimalist ones, because at one point it's form over function, than and for me anyway. but it's one of those things where those people swear by it. Enough people swear by it that it's a big movement, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
and Barry's with it. He's an engineer, and Barry uses a trackball as well. So
I love that he found a little icon.
That's there's actually an emoji for that, like a trackball.
Yes,
there's
also a community. There's also a community for trackballs too. So I actually, towards the latter part of last year, I was part of. I had contributed towards like a crowdfunding campaign for Game Ball, which is basically a trackball that was designed and manufactured in England. Well, it was designed here, but it was manufactured in England. But it's basically it's an ambidextrous gaming trackball, which has a really high-end sensor in it.
Okay,
it works really well, and I think they're working on a right-handed pro version, which I would love because.
And then Shark and I are old, so we had the old like IBM Selectric where you had to like now. I guess my question is on the Selectric 3, did it have the automatic like the correction fluid where it would shoot little jets, or did you have to go old school like when I learned how to type, you actually had to take a piece of like correction paper and stick it between the keys and actually go back a space and hit it. Like my mom had two, so she had the old IBM regular typewriter, and if you wanted to go back and undo a word, you actually had to take a little piece of correction paper, stick it between the actual striking point, and then actually hit it right. And then she got I don't know if it was a Selectric 3 or it might be in a 4, where it actually had a little jet where it would go and it would actually shoot onto the screen, onto the actual paper that you were typing on. So that's how I learned to type when I was a kid. And hey man, like I'm almost 50, right? So that was it. My mom, and she was always way faster on a typewriter than she ever was on a keyboard. My mom could crush a typewriter, and then the keyboard, she wasn't very good at it.
So there's an interesting thing about that. So those, I believe they used what's called IBM beam spring switches, which were basically so if you think about the Model M's, those were buckling spring switches. Then they had, which uses a membrane. Then before them were the Model F's, which were capacitive. So those actually had NQ rollover, and they had like a PCB that they touched down on. Then before that were beam spring, which were significantly taller, but they were what you used, and they were basically that transition point from typewriters to keyboards. And there is a huge market for those beam spring keyboards. They are chunks, and they're tall and they're humongous. But I see those go for thousands of dollars on eBay.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah, they're almost like antique collectibles now.
They are.
It's crazy. I really wish I would have I had like the big, huge like metal case that had locks on it. Yeah, my mom. I wish I would have had it because my mom. I used to watch her type on that when I was a little kid, and she was great on that. It was fun.
The funny thing with those especially the computer ones is where you have the holdover from typewriters is if you took your hand and you pressed it down on all of them at once, you could hear the solenoid trying to catch up going.
I just remember when I was a kid, all the arms would go and they would mangle in the middle.
Yes.
You had to kind of like physically pull them back. And if you double stroke a key, even if you double strike it, right? Because if it came from both sides, they would catch in the center, and you actually had to reach inside the housing and actually pull the armatures back to unlock.
Yeah.
So talking to keyboards, I kind of miss. I had a BlackBerry Bold, and actually typing on the BlackBerry Bold was brilliant.
So, and I was going to ask you. So, the Unihertz has got the Titan and those.
Yeah.
Like, what do you? I can't get it, like I said, because they even say on their website they're not certified for the network for AT&T. But I had a BlackBerry Key 2 for a while. I really liked typing on the physical keyboard. It's kind of fun, actually.
So when I went on a trip this past weekend and I met a friend who actually worked for BlackBerry back during the Passport days, and he was involved in a lot of like the manufacturing of the tools that would manufacture them. So he was like a little further back in it, but he would work with the engineers, and it was. I am not related to Jim Rome, but we could do a genetics test and see if we wanted.
Right.
But
the funny thing is the fact
I don't know who
I'm
he
surprised
is.
How many people here know who Jim Rome is?
Yeah, I don't know who Jim Rome is.
Yeah, he's a sports commentator. He's awesome. Yeah, I love Jim Rome. So that's funny. Shark and I are both kind of you really have to kind of be a sports kind of junkie to kind of know who Jim Rome is. I mean, he's pretty mainstream, but he's a sports guy.
He looks sharp.
Oh yeah, good sports ball.
Andrew,
Jim Rome shows. He has a podcast. Jim Rome. It's really good. He's talking. Yeah, you should check it if you like sports at all, even peripherally. Check out his show.
Hey, if he talks about the St. Louis Cardinals, then I'll watch.
He does, but he's a national sports guy. So he talks about
okay, yeah. But yeah, that it's but yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, but what was I talking about before?
Your buddy who had worked with BlackBerry.
Oh yeah. So he was talking about unihertz because I asked him because he had a BlackBerry Key 1, and I was like, so what do you think about unihertz? And then the first thing he says, they're gonna get sued.
I think does BlackBerry even really? And do they even care about even protecting that IP anymore? It doesn't seem like that.
I don't know. At this point, unihertz needs to license out the layout because the where the function keys are and the layout is kind of silly, and they need to just license it because in BlackBerry, if they're not going to make anything, then they need to license it out,
or they just need to release it into the public domain and be done with it.
Yeah.
So, would you still have your BlackBerry, Joe? Do you still have that somewhere? Or did you?
No, like I said before, I sell all my phones. Do you know what? The only reason I got it is when I met my wife.
Right.
She had a BlackBerry.
Okay.
So I actually had I can't remember what I had now. I think I had a nice HTC. I not long had it as well.
Yeah.
I got rid of it just so I can do BB chat with her.
That's love.
That's love, isn't it?
That's right, and that's a shame. That's funny. Now, did she have it through work, or was it just a phone that she just used like personal use?
I don't know. It was kind of trendy to have a BlackBerry at the time, I think.
If you were a cool person, yeah. Me, I was not. I didn't really get into the smartphone game until like the Galaxy S3. That was kind of like where I kind of jumped.
I think it's like the blue bubble thing. Like the BB chat was pretty big.
Oh shit, yeah. Back in the day, it was like that was the thing. Like like was there like codes you had to like exchange codes and stuff like that? Yeah. Like BB codes. Yeah.
You know what, I set it up with my work email as well, and it was excellent for email.
Okay, yeah. So quick segue. Jim Rome was actually interviewing Chris. Oh God, what the hell? And I can't remember his name. So Chris Everett, right? He's a quarterback, and there was a tennis player called Chris Everett, a woman, right? And I can't remember the quarterback's name. And in the show, he kept calling him Chris, and he kept saying, basically, basically saying he's a pussy. And he said, call me Chris Everett one more time. He goes, Chris. And then Chris, the quarterback comes out of the chair and like tries to punch Jim Rome in the face. If you actually look up Chris Everett, Jim Rome, you'll see the video. It's old. It's got to be 20 years old. And he kept calling him Chris Everett and just pissing this guy off. And he basically said, call me Chris one more time. And he just goes, Chris. And this guy comes out of the fucking chair. It was pretty good. It's a pretty good. Yeah, I absolutely. Sharks mentioned that. So.
Oh man.
Well, you're not going to believe this, Andrew and Joe, but we're at the 52-minute mark already.
Already?
Hey man, unless we're at like 1.5 replay speed, yeah, we're at 52 minutes.
Oh God, I didn't realize that my perceptions were set to fast forward.
Well, it's okay. It's you're amongst friends and you're amongst people who like and respect and been part of our community. And like I said, for anybody who doesn't really know, me and Joe and Andrew really kind of like I came into the group during Juan's streams, right? So that was kind of like that group where Matt and everybody. So it was that Juan's. I don't want to say Juan's core of listeners because he has obviously hundreds of thousands of followers and stuff like that. But that group that always kind of showed up on the streams, right? Aditya and you and Joe. And so that's kind of how this whole like little mini community started. And then we branched out and that kind of thing. So that's how I met Andrew and Joe and all those kind of folks. So,
so many cool people I met through Juan.
Yeah. And folks, if you have a chance, on Mondays, I think it's 11, Eastern, 9 Juan's time, so it'd be 10 o'clock. It's the SGGQA podcast. Obviously, I always plug Juan because I honestly think, and real quickly, his commentary and his discussions on tech are criminally undervalued in this space.
Definitely.
It's really kind of a shame because I think of all the people I've listened to, Juan really has the most cerebral and fact-based reasons why he has the feelings about the tech he does. And he will explain those, and not so high level. He will really bring them down to like where people can really discuss it. So I really think that actually Juan is probably one of the most comprehensively solid tech commentators that there are out there about audio, about video, about phones, and everything else. So if you obviously everybody in this chat is probably aware of him. If you're not, know, he doesn't get enough credit, I don't think.
And he's also just a stand-up person.
Yeah, just generally a good dude. So, and that's why I think that's why it's nice, because most of the people in that chat are good, like-minded people, and so that's why I appreciate it. So that's why we, and I've had a long-standing relationship with both Joe and Andrew here, and so it just made sense that I actually kind of missed talking to Andrew and having him on the show. So I'm glad we can kind of get him on.
I'm gonna hang out with you guys too. So yeah, this has been wonderful.
Yeah, and Barry, thanks Barry for saying basically it's every Monday at noon Eastern. So yeah, check that out. Also check us out, and if Andrew ever gets back into his streaming game, check him out. All that kind of stuff. I point. It's always the wrong thing. So I'm not good at that. Hey, if you want to hear, click on this link here in the chat. I don't care. About that.
Sam, before we go, we better say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Yeah, Happy Mom's Day for anybody in the United States. Coach Joe doesn't know what day it is in the UK. It's on a Sunday.
No, it's been and gone. I'm looking forward to Father's Day now.
Really? Nobody cares. Here's the thing, dude. Well, I'm a father, so I'm saying this from a completely biased point of view, but nobody gives a shit about us. Yeah, right. Yeah. I think Mother's Day is like one of the top 3 holidays, like as far as like engagement in the world. And I think Father's Day, is 9th or 10th. I think it's behind Arbor Day of all fucking things. So I mean, yeah. So because guys are like, I don't really know what Arbor Day is. And to be perfectly fair, I don't care about Father's Day necessarily. My daughters, I'm just like, look, here, you want a Father's Day gift? Just be good stewards and good humans and good people to the world, right? And just kind of listen to what Dad says, sort of, about your life. That's all. That would be my gift. And my girls who turned 21 this year, by the way. They both turned 21. Gosh. I know.
That's crazy, isn't it?
I know. It's stunningly crazy. So anyway. Oh, wait. Hold on. Stand by. It's March 27th. That's right. Thanks to my wife. She told Mother's Day in the UK, so you missed it. Good job, Joe.
No, I didn't miss it. I know it's gone.
It was
spreading the good vibes for Mother's Day International.
Right, we're preloading for next March 25th.
That's right.
5th-ish.
Every day is Mother's Day.
Oh, nice kick save. They have kick saves in England. I don't think they do. Like diving, goalie, save, whatever. Right. So.
Hey, yeah.
What the fuck is happening with your lights? You're like dark.
The sun's gone.
The sun's gone.
The sun just disappeared.
It just went.
I'm saying, like, we start the show and there's Joe, and all of a sudden, as like the show's going, it's like Joe's like, I mean, he can't barely see the motherfucker. He's like you're hanging out. You can see his hair, kind of, and his eyeball, and his front, and his cheeks. That's it.
You can see that.
Actually, the Enterprise went around the opposite side of the Earth. Went to the dark side of the Earth.
Oh, yeah. Slingshot the moon. Is that what we're doing? We're going to slingshot it. Is that what we're doing? Little Star Trek 4 for you, folks. Yeah, check that out, by the way.
No, technically they were slingshotting around the sun, so there was always the sunlight.
Okay. You know what? You always got to be all about details.
Hey, I don't have a life. It's okay.
Can you let me have my life? And I'm like, that's close enough, right? Sun, moon, Earth, whatever. Fuck it, Mars.
Earth, Wind, Fire.
That's okay.
So I heard Uranus is bigger than Earth.
Ooh, I heard it's green too.
Nice burn. Very good. That was a very good burn. I appreciate that. And then, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's another topic for another time. We got to get Andrew on again because we're going to talk about the whole.
Yeah, definitely.
We want to have an expanded discussion about everything. It's funny because 45 minutes really doesn't get to it. Actually, one of these days, me and you, Joe, we're going to early, like noon. We're going to have like a marathon show. We're going to go Joe Rogan Experience, like one of those 3.5 hour, 4 hour things where everybody can go, wow, after 20 minutes, I'm tapping out. These people are absolute fucking knobs. They don't know what they're talking about.
Right. Yeah, hey, I'd be up for doing that. Like quantity of speech is not something I struggle to attain.
And here's the funny thing. That might not even mean we would actually record the show and just upload it just for giggles. But I know these people have these marathon like streaming sessions. I would love to do one of those one time and just see it and just let it rip for like 3 or 4 hours. That would be cool.
See, I did that when I was putting together the keyboard. It was almost 6 hours, and I had everything working except for the number 5 on the number row. And so I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Well, and it's funny because it tells me a joke about irregular phones. Stephen Wright used to do a bit about, he goes, I bought an irregular phone. it didn't have a 7 on it. And he met up a buddy. He goes, how come you haven't called me anymore? He was like, I can't call you anymore. My phone doesn't have a 7 on it. And there's another part of the bit, and I can't remember it now. It's funny. So anyway, he bought a regular phone, didn't have a 7 on it, right? So it's funny. So
oh man, jokes that only work in the past now.
No, yeah. Well, no, these are pretty good. Stephen Wright stuff. Some of this stuff is pretty good. He talked about he talked about I used to work for the company that made fire hydrants, but you couldn't park anywhere near the place. It's shit like that, right? Right. So yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, it's a little deadpan, but anyway. So, well, Joe, I would like to see what you have going on, but I mean, I can't even see you practically. It's
I know.
rather cool.
I just lost you both as well for a second.
Oh, well,
I missed that last.
That's okay. You didn't miss anything. It's just me running my mouth at the end of the show. So we're at the 1 hour mark. So
hydrants. I was like, what?
We're here, and Andrew, I realize it's a tough day for all of us. Like I said, for what you had going on with it's Mother's Day, and I realize what the situation with everything that's going on. And for those out there, happy Mother's Day. We appreciate you coming on and listening to the show live. If you have a chance, download the show on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever your podcatcher is. And we really appreciate you coming on and spending time and actually looking quite professional. We really appreciate that because we're very not much that here.
It looks awesome.
Thank you. Well, like I'm wearing pajama pants under this. So
yeah. I was gonna say I didn't even feel wearing pants at all. I'm just saying because you can get away with that back in it. It could be boxer shorts, whitey tighties. It's fine.
Whatever. It's a basement, so it's a little chilly. So
There you go. Well, that's cool. So, Joe, anything else before we close? Because before the light totally fades and you have an eclipse and then we can't see you at all.
I'll just stick with the Star Trek theme. Live long and prosper.
I can actually do that. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
There you go. So again, Andrew, thanks for coming on. We would like to have you on again. We'll reach out to you and we'll talk more about what's going on in your life in the world of tech and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a call away, and I would love the chance to be on again with you guys and talk more.
Absolutely. So that's the Nomad Tech Project for Sunday, May 8th, 2022. We appreciate you guys coming on, listening, and participating. Everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for showing up. Download the podcast, and for myself, for Joe Hickey and Andrew, thanks for coming on the show. Enjoy your check. Have a good week. Bye, everybody. Love your faces, and we'll see you next Sunday for another great episode.
Goodbye.